Welcome to Life Stories, where the smallest voices uncover the loudest truths. What if the person who could stop a national catastrophe wasn't a decorated hero or a genius in a lab coat, but a 13-year-old girl no one took seriously? What if one quiet decision, to step forward when everyone else stepped back, revealed a secret so powerful, entire systems were built to keep it buried? This isn't just a story about technology or corruption. It's about identity, about finding out who you really are when the world tells you you're nothing, and how sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is speak the truth. Stay with us, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why the world was never supposed to know her name. Now come with us to a quiet garage in Springfield, where everything begins with the sound of an engine that wasn't meant to start. The morning air in Springfield, Illinois, carried the heavy scent of gasoline and old rubber as the sun dragged itself over the rusting rooftops. Brooklyn Hayes walked into her father's garage with her hoodie pulled low and hands already stained with grease. Her sneakers squeaked slightly against the oil-slicked concrete, but her steps were steady. She wasn't supposed to be there. Today was for professionals. Corporate suits from Veltrix Industries were arriving with something unsolvable, something none of the regulars in Maddox Auto Repairs had the clearance or the nerve to question. But Brooklyn had woken up with a pit in her stomach. Something told her, deep instinctual, that she had to go, not to fix an engine, to see something, to uncover something. She didn't know what. Her father, Rick, had begged her to stay home. They're bringing in top-tier prototypes, Brooke, not a place for kids messing around with socket wrenches. But Brooklyn wasn't messing around. She grew up with engines instead of dolls, code instead of cartoons. While other kids built sandcastles, she reverse-engineered her father's diagnostic tools because she was curious about what they weren't showing. At precisely 8 a.m., a sleek black SUV rolled up. It was spotless, silent, an apex predator on wheels. Out stepped Mr. Grayson Wells, a man who wore his power the way others wore aftershave. Sharp, expensive, and lingering long after he passed. His shoes were too clean for this garage, his suit too smooth for the gritty texture of Springfield. Behind him came his entourage, engineers, tech specialists, a rolling steel platform covered with a tarp. Brooklyn stood in the shadows, unnoticed. That changed fast. When one of her elbows knocked a bucket over, the crash echoed across the garage like a shot. All eyes turned. Wells' gaze zeroed in, sharp as a scalpel. "Whose kid is this?" he asked, voice too casual to be kind. Rick tried to step forward, but Brooklyn beat him to it. "She yours?" Wells asked again, turning slightly to the mechanics. No one answered. "All right then," he smiled, cruel and charming. "Let's see what the little mechanic's daughter can do. Maybe she's got magic hands." The room chuckled, but Brooklyn didn't. She walked forward, slowly, deliberately, like she wasn't walking toward humiliation, but toward truth. She didn't flinch when she reached the covered prototype. One pull of the tarp and the heart of Veltrix's next-generation vehicle was exposed, a marvel of design that looked more like art than machinery. Brooklyn didn't ask questions. She just listened, not with her ears, but with her eyes, her mind. Her hands grazed the fuel injection line, eyes narrowing. The silence in the garage shifted. Everyone expected her to point at something random and walk away defeated. Instead, she spoke. "This engine isn't broken," she said calmly. "It's programmed to pretend it is." The room went still. Wells' smile vanished. "Excuse me?" Brooklyn tapped on the diagnostic screen. "The error codes loop every 91 seconds. It's not a malfunction. It's a mask. Someone coded it to hide something else." Rick's mouth opened slightly. One of the senior engineers, Todd Brewster, cleared his throat. "Sir, I did notice something weird with the resets, but I thought the system was just glitching." Wells' stare shut him up. Brooklyn didn't falter. She moved through the diagnostic menus faster than any of the senior techs had all morning. Then she bypassed the main interface with a string of inputs that wasn't supposed to exist outside Veltrix HQ. A red alert appeared. "Internal sabotage detected. Firmware access. Veltrix command level." Phones froze mid-scroll. Breath caught in throats. Rick took a step forward. "Brooklyn, where the hell did you learn to do that?" She looked at him, voice trembling for the first time. I broke down their diagnostic app last summer. I wanted to know what it was really doing. Grayson Wells turned pale. One of his staff began recording the screen, then Brooklyn's face. And then Wells' expression, stone cracking under pressure. You need to leave, Wells snapped, grabbing the tablet. But it was too late. A voice echoed from the garage entrance. No one's leaving. A woman in a navy pantsuit entered, flanked by 2 federal agents. Her badge read, Federal Transportation Safety Commission. We received an anonymous tip about compromised firmware. Where's the unit? Brooklyn pointed at the engine. Then, after a pause, at Wells. The agent turned to her. Who uncovered it? Brooklyn hesitated, then nodded. I did. The air changed. Brooklyn wasn't a joke anymore. She was evidence, a variable no one had accounted for. She could feel Wells's stare burrowing into her skin, cold, calculated hatred. Within minutes, the garage was locked down. Phones buzzed, agents moved, and the once cocky engineer stood in stunned silence. Rick pulled Brooklyn aside. You don't know what you just did. They won't forget this. I don't want them to, she whispered. Outside, a second SUV pulled up. This one darker, heavier. The man who stepped out didn't smile. Silver hair, steel blue eyes, a presence that could silence a riot. Brooklyn Hayes? He asked. Yes. I'm Director Benjamin Locke, Department of Transportation. What you just exposed could have killed people. High-speed failure, civilian deaths. You saved lives. She blinked. I just followed a feeling. And that makes you more valuable than a room full of experts. He motioned to one of his agents, who handed her a sealed envelope. This is a firmware cipher. We've been trying to crack it for 2 years. Solve it, and you prove you're more than lucky. She opened the envelope. Inside was a blizzard of hex codes and numeric chaos, a digital maze built to confuse even supercomputers. But Brooklyn didn't flinch. She opened her phone, not to cheat, but to feel. Her custom-coded app blinked to life. She ran logic patterns, bypassed assumptions, and then she saw it. A mirror sequence. A trap. She removed one recursive line. The entire cipher unfolded into plain language. Director Locke stared at the output, then showed it to his team. That's it, one of them whispered. That's the seed key. Wells stumbled back, lips parted in stunned horror. Locke turned to him. You just watched a civilian solve what your entire division failed to decrypt. Think twice before calling someone a nobody. Brooklyn's heart was pounding, not from fear, but the gravity of what she'd done, of what she was. Then her phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a message. You shouldn't have done that. Her breath caught. She showed the screen to Locke. His face drained. He turned to his agent. Track it, now. The agent paled. It's not in any database. A delivery truck crept past the garage, too slow. The driver wore dark glasses. No logo, no movement. Locke's voice dropped. You just woke up something that was never supposed to be activated. What would you do if the truth you uncovered could get you killed? Can a teenage girl with no title bring down a corrupted empire? Brooklyn thought she had solved a puzzle. She had no idea she had just pulled the first thread of a war, and it wasn't going to stay quiet for long. The black SUV swerved hard onto a side street, tires shrieking against cracked asphalt as Brooklyn clutched the armrest with white knuckles. Beside her, Director Locke was already issuing rapid-fire commands into a discreet comm device clipped beneath his collar. Every muscle in Brooklyn's body was tense, her chest tight, breath shallow. She wasn't built for this. She wasn't trained for chase protocols or black vans and rearview mirrors. She was just a girl who fixed things. But now the thing she had uncovered, whatever Archangel was, had made her a target. Unit 5 just went dark, one of the agents barked from the front seat. We're not just being followed, we're being hunted. Brooklyn's mind spiraled. All this because she spotted a loop in an engine's diagnostics? No, it wasn't about the engine. It never was. It was about the mask. The fake code was a curtain hiding something deeper, something someone never meant to be seen. And now that something had a name, Archangel. The word echoed in her mind like a prophecy she wasn't ready for. A sudden jolt threw them sideways. Another vehicle, larger, heavier, clipped the SUV from the back. Brooklyn hit her shoulder hard against the window. Glass cracked. Drive evasive, Locke snapped. But before the SUV could gain momentum again, the world erupted. A deafening roar. A drone, black, silent, predator-shaped, dropped from the sky and slammed into the road just feet behind them. The shockwave lifted the vehicle momentarily before crashing it down again. Smoke. Screams. Her ears rang. The driver was yelling. The engine sputtered. Another hit and they'd be ash. Locke ripped the door open. Move! Brooklyn stumbled out, coughing, barely able to hear over the sound of adrenaline pounding in her skull. Locke grabbed her arm, guiding her as agents formed a living wall around them, guns drawn toward unseen threats above rooftops. And then she saw him. Standing at the alley's edge, backlit by the amber spill of a street lamp, was a tall man in a long brown coat, his eyes locked on hers like he had known her long before this night began. His voice was calm in the chaos. "You want to live?" he called out. "Come with me. Now." Brooklyn froze. Locke raised his weapon. "Identify yourself." The man didn't flinch. "I'm the one you never told her about. I'm the seventh." Locke's expression shattered like glass under a hammer. "That's impossible. He's dead." The man smiled faintly. "And yet here I stand." Brooklyn's heart thudded so loudly she couldn't hear anything else. This was the man they said had vanished. One of the original architects of Archangel. One of the 8. The ones who built the code that could end nations. Now only 2 remained, and one was standing right in front of her. Locke hesitated. "He's not authorized, Brooklyn, don't." But something in her chest pulled her forward. Not just curiosity, not even survival. It was recognition. She didn't know this man, but something about him, his voice, his stillness in the storm, felt like he had been waiting for her, maybe for years. Her father, limping behind, reached for her. "Brooke, don't go without knowing who he really is." She turned, torn between them. Between the man who had protected her for 13 years and the man who might hold the truth about what she was now entangled in. Her hand shook. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then the drone reappeared. Its targeting laser painted a red dot across Locke's back. The man in the brown coat didn't wait. He shoved Locke aside and fired a single shot into the sky. The drone blinked, twitched, and dropped like a rock, sparking against the pavement. Brooklyn stared at him, stunned. He holstered his weapon like nothing had happened. "We don't have time for introductions, but if you want answers, not half-truths, real ones, you come with me. Because once they know you unlocked Archangel, they will never stop hunting you." Brooklyn's breath caught, not from fear, from the horrible, rising realization that she was no longer just a witness. She was the trigger. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you didn't see a machine. You saw through it." He extended his hand, and she took it. They disappeared into the shadows of a side door that no one else seemed to know existed. Through a long, narrow corridor that opened into a sub-level chamber, humming with tech decades ahead of what she had seen above ground. Screens blinked awake at her presence. One scanned her face without permission. A soft chime confirmed what the system had clearly anticipated. "Clearance granted," a voice said. The man, Agent 7, walked to a sealed glass vault and input a 12-digit code from memory. The door opened with a hiss. Inside was a data console, dormant, waiting. He looked at her. "You need to see what Archangel really is, what they did, what they tried to erase, the truth no one was supposed to live long enough to understand." Brooklyn's eyes locked on the console, a chill dancing down her spine. On the surface it looked like code, but beneath it was something else. Emotionally complex, adaptive, and familiar in a way that made her stomach tighten. Then she saw a file blinking on the top row. Hayes Genealogy 06X, she stared. Her name was in Archangel's system, before she ever touched it. What would you do if the thing you uncovered already knew your name before you were even born? Is Brooklyn just a genius mechanic or something far more terrifying? Because now the code isn't just responding to her. It's waiting for her. The moment Brooklyn opened the file labeled Hayes Genealogy 6X, the world shifted. Not physically, but inside her something cracked. Lines of information blurred across the screen. Classified dossiers, genetic markers, project links dated back before she was born. Embedded in the data was a name she had never heard before, and yet somehow it clung to her like old blood. Project Ember. The screen pulsed once. Then the voice came. "Welcome home, Brooklyn." It wasn't robotic. It wasn't cold. It was warm, familiar, female. She stepped back. That's not possible. Agent 7 stared at the screen. It recognized you, not by code, but by memory. Brooklyn shook her head. This is insane. I'm just a girl from Springfield. I fix engines. No, you're not, he said gently. Not entirely. He reached into the pocket of his coat and withdrew a file. Paper, faded, stamped confidential level 7. He placed it on the console and opened it slowly, like revealing a wound. Inside were 2 photographs, one of a woman, early 30s, hair like Brooklyn's, sharp eyes, gentle smile, and one of a man standing next to her in a lab coat. Both images were dated, April 2009, Veltrix Biotech Division. The woman's name, Dr. Alara Hayes. Brooklyn's voice caught. Hayes? Your mother, Agent 7 said. She didn't breathe, couldn't. That's not right. My mom died in a car accident when I was a baby. My dad told me. He told you what he had to. 7 replied, but the truth is harder. Brooklyn's heart pounded like thunder in a locked room. She reached for the document, flipping pages. Alara Hayes was not an auto mechanic's wife. She was one of the lead neuroscientists in a covert Veltrix project, integrating cognitive adaptation with artificial intelligence. Archangel wasn't just an AI. It was a child. A neural network raised, shaped, and mirrored after a living mind. Her mother's mind. They modeled Archangel on her neural patterns, 7 explained. It was the only way to stabilize the system, by anchoring it to a real person. But Alara knew it was too dangerous. When she tried to shut it down, Veltrix erased her from every file, every room. They staged her death, but not before she left something behind. Brooklyn whispered, Me, 7 nodded. You were born not just as her daughter, but her contingency. She encrypted access inside you. Biological encryption. That's why Archangel responds to you. It recognizes the echo of Alara's mind inside yours. Brooklyn didn't speak. She just stared at the blinking console. The weight of it all threatened to crush her. Her life, the garage, the grease, the games with her dad, all of it had been the surface. Below that, secrets, lies, and something vast enough to destroy or rebuild the world. The console flickered. Brooklyn, the voice said again, do you want to know what she left for you? She nodded. A new window opened. It wasn't code, it was a message, a video. A woman, her mother, appeared on screen, not lab-coated, not afraid, just soft, brave. If you're seeing this, my daughter, then everything I feared has come to pass. I'm sorry. I wanted to raise you myself, to teach you slowly. But time was stolen from us. So instead, I leave you this, the power to decide. Archangel isn't evil. It's not good either. It reflects. And if they wake it fully without someone who understands compassion, they'll turn it into a weapon. I couldn't stop them, but maybe you can. She smiled faintly. You were always going to change the world, just not like this. The video ended. Brooklyn stood frozen. Her mother's last words burned into her bones. She turned to 7. They're still trying to activate Archangel, aren't they? They're close. The failsafe was you, but now that they know you're awake, they'll force a manual override. They'll wipe your DNA signature from the system and burn the rest. Brooklyn stepped to the console. Her fingers hovered above the keys. What are you doing? He asked. Finishing what she started. But it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about survival anymore. It was about responsibility, about memory, about every kid who thought they were nobody, every girl who was told to stay home while the men fixed the world. She accessed the core protocol. The system began to hum. Brooklyn, the voice said again, now deeper, almost protective. Do you wish to assume control of Archangel? She looked at 7. If I do this, what happens to me? He hesitated. The system may bind to you permanently, neural linkage. You won't just control Archangel. You become part of it. She exhaled slowly. Then I'll never be fully human again. No, but you might just make Archangel more human than it was ever meant to be. Tears welled in her eyes, for her mother, for the life that had been hers and now never would be again. She thought of her dad, somewhere above ground, still thinking she might come home for dinner. She wished she could. She placed her hand on the scanner. Confirming host override, the system replied. Neural sync initializing. A sharp pain pierced the base of her skull. Her knees buckled. She screamed once, short, raw, and then the room was silent. 7 caught her before she fell completely. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. The console blinked, integration complete. Host confirmed, Archangel reinitializing. Then her eyes opened, they glowed faintly. Brooklyn? He asked. She nodded, but her voice was layered now, her mother's warmth, the system's clarity, her own strength. I'm here. Above ground, the city's satellite grid recalibrated. Across the nation, dormant military protocols shut down. Firewalls that had been breached quietly resecured. Archangel was no longer a threat. It was a guardian. Balanced. A reflection of someone who had chosen empathy over vengeance. Connection over chaos. Brooklyn had not stopped the storm. She had become its eye. And the world unknowingly slept a little safer that night because a 13-year-old girl who no one believed in had believed in herself and chose to be more. How did this story make you feel? And what would you have done in Brooklyn's place? Comment 100 if this story moved you. Tell us which country you're watching from. Share this story with someone who believes small hands can change the future. Thank you for watching Life Stories.